Greetings, my peeps, and welcome to the All Things Basketball Podcast with your boy GD. In this episode, I'll be finishing my Week 7 recap, going from Saturday, Sunday. Also, we're at the quarter point of the season, so I'll give you a few of my breakdowns as far as the best teams, the surprise teams, the disappointments, as well as the best players, surprise players, and disappointment there. So, with that said, sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. I did the first half of the Week 7 recap, did Monday through Friday. Probably should have cut it off a little shorter than that, but it is what it is. It's okay. I still got plenty to discuss here, so we will get into it. So let's talk about Saturday in Week 7 of the NBA schedule there. So Week 7, Ja Morant, he was fined $35,000 for using inappropriate language to a referee and not leaving the court in a timely manner during a Wednesday loss to the Minnesota Timberwolves, 109-101. Also in that game, Dillon Brooks, he also got ejected in that game. So a lot of tempers flying in that one, and Ja Morant fined for his antics. So, speaking of ejections, Rudy Gobert of the Minnesota Timberwolves, oddly enough, talking about that team that beat the Memphis Grizzlies, he gets ejected for tripping Kenrich Williams of the Oklahoma City Thunder in a game that they lost 135-128 to Oklahoma City Thunder. So in that game, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who's been on an absolute tear coming out the gates, 33 points, 6 assists, and 3 steals. So I tell you what, Shai has been playing well. I know I've talked about him in previous episodes. He's another guy. It's just a matter of health. We knew he had the ability. It was just the availability. But the fact now that he hasn't missed major times, so definitely a guy who's definitely bringing it. And a guy who quietly is making maybe not so quietly, but he's definitely making an all-star push with what he's doing. So kudos there. And then in a Saturday afternoon game, Jalen Brunson for the New York Knicks, he loses to his old team, Dallas, 121-100. In that game, he has only 13 points, 3 assists, and 2 rebounds, all of which under his season average. So Jalen Brunson, you thought he'd come out with a little more urgency. Not the case. And in that game, Luka Doncic, he has 30 points, 8 rebounds, 7 assists with 3 blocks. But the story was Tim Hardaway Jr., man. 28 points. He dropped 8 threes in that game. I mean, he couldn't miss from 3. Oh, my gosh. With 7 rebounds as well. So the Knicks taking another tough, well, not a tough loss, but a bad loss at Madison Square Garden for them. So then we move on. Golden State. I haven't really talked about Golden State in this Week 7 recap. Andrew Wiggins, he goes for 36 points with 8 3-pointers, as well as 5 rebounds, 2 steals. And then, of course, Steph Curry doing Steph Curry things, 30 points for him, 8 3-pointers for him as well, 10 assists and 3 rebounds, as they shoot the lights out in beating the Houston Rockets 120-101. So you already you got three guys on the Saturday dropping 8 3-pointers in a game. Wow. That just tells you this it's a new NBA now, guys. That's just the way it goes. So, and then in the last bit of Saturday news, Anthony Simmons, man. I tell you what, man. When this guy, he was out there on the free agent market, and Portland wisely re-signed him for big money too, by the way. In fact, he's getting about as much as Jalen Brunson for the Knicks. But this kid, man. Whew. Anyway, he goes off for 45 points with 7 3-pointers, along with 4 assists and 2 blocks as Portland wins on the road against Utah, 116-111. So I keep calling him Simmons. Anthony Simons, I'm sorry. So Simons, man, I tell you what, this young kid, he's playing well. And he's playing well in the absence of Dame Lillard. So Portland realizes they have a guy that they could hang their hat on when Dame Lillard is around. So you don't get the exact results, but he's done his best to keep the team afloat. And then also Jeremy Grant, a great pickup for them. Well, a great trade for them, bringing him into the mix. 33 points and 5 assists for him in that game. So Portland still, amongst those. At one time they were up top amongst the top 3 or 4 teams, but now they kind of fell down to earth a bit. So they need to get Dame back in the fold. All right, so that's Saturday's news. Let us turn to Sunday. Sunday, Dean Wade of the Cleveland Cavaliers, he's going to be out 3 to 4 weeks with a sprained shoulder. So Dean Wade, a forward for them, he's going to be out. So look for guys like Seti Osman to, get a few more minutes in Wade's absence. So even a Karis LeVert will see a little extra time. So, speaking of Cleveland loses an ugly game on the road to the Knicks. In fact, Knicks had a back-to-back at home. So, but they came out. You know what? They said, here's what we're going to do. We're going to slow this thing down. We're going to go back to the 90s, slow it all down, and grind out a win, which they did. So, in that game for Cleveland, Donovan Mitchell did get 23 points, but on 8 of 22 shooting and 2 of 11 from 3-point range. So, not the best of days for Mitchell, who went off against the Knicks in their previous outing facing them. And then for the Knicks, Jalen Brunson redeems himself from Saturday. 23 points with 4 assists. So, bit of redemption for Jaylen Brown, who seems to always play well against Donovan Mitchell. So there you have it. Jose Alvarado. Oh, he's one of those self-made players, man, for the New Orleans Pelicans. He's a guy who's sort of like a Patrick Beverley type, a guy who get up in your shorts, play defense. Well, a young Patrick Beverley, that is, coming off your bench. But he has a career game here, 38 points. And he has 8 3-pointers. Well, it's the next day, but still. As the Pelicans take care of Denver, 121-106. For Denver, Nikola Jokic He has 32 points, 16 rebounds, 9 assists. So he's 1 assist away from a triple-double, and add with that 2 steals. So, but the story here, Jose Alvarado, one of those guys who you can't help but root for. He's just one of those guys, the underdog type who maximizes his abilities, especially for the Pelicans. So, in fact, I'll talk about the Pelicans in a little bit. And then Ja Morant, remember he got the fine on Saturday? Well, he comes roaring back on Sunday. He has 33 points, 10 assists, 5 rebounds, as Memphis wins on the road versus Detroit. 122 to 112. And in that game also, Saddiq Bey coming off the bench, 24 points, 7 assists, and 6 rebounds. So maybe the thing here is bringing Saddiq Bey off your bench, because when he's a starter, you don't do that much. But coming off your bench, seems like he has more fire and desire there. So, but nonetheless, Memphis on the road wins. So, in a playoff rematch, Boston wins against the Brooklyn Nets, in Brooklyn, by the way, 103 to 92. And in that game, of course, Jalen Brown, 34 points with 10 rebounds. Jason Tatum, 29 points, 11 rebounds. So Boston pretty much doing what they did to the Nets in the playoffs last year, keeping them at bay as far as not letting their big two go crazy. KD does get 31 points, 7 rebounds, 5 assists, 2 blocks, 2 steals. But it's Kyrie, though. Only 18 points on 7 of 21 shooting, 8 rebounds, and 5 assists in the game. So it's more the same of Boston besting the Brooklyn Nets. Zach LaVine, that's a name we haven't really spoke of for the Chicago Bulls. He scores 41 points, but in a loss, though. To a loss on the road to Sacramento, 110 to 101. And in that game, Domantas Sabonis, he has a triple-double. 11 points, 17 rebounds, and 10 assists. As he leads, well, he doesn't lead, but he's among 7 players in double figures for the Sacramento Kings. And then the final game that we'll talk about, Anthony Davis. It's going to be pretty much touch and go, the player of the week for next week. I think he ends up getting it, actually. He goes nuts in this game. 55 points, 17 rebounds, 3 blocks. Man, good gracious. Numbers we haven't seen since a man named Wilt Chamberlain. So, as LA gets the road win over Washington, 130 to 119. LeBron in this game, 28 points for him, 8 rebounds, 6 assists. Bradley Beal, he actually pulls a hamstring early in this game, about 5 minutes in. So he only has 2 points and 1 rebound, which nearly killed me in fantasy basketball. I have him on one of my teams, but thankfully they pulled out a tough win against the actual league leader, who was undefeated at the time. But my squad got the win over him, which was pretty nice. So anyway, I digress. So Bradley Beal, we'll see what happens as far as a diagnosis. I'm sure I'll be talking about that in the week 8 recap. So we'll get to that news then. So all right, guys. So that's everything as far as the recap of the week goes. So I guess now I'll talk about the assess what happened the first quarter of the season, and we'll take it from there. So your best teams as far as the East goes is pretty obvious, isn't it, guys? The Boston Celtics. Boston Celtics has been the pride of the NBA and as a whole. So Boston getting the nod of the best team in the East. And then in the West, it's Phoenix, of course. Talked about them extensively. Devin Booker, DeAndre Ayton, and those guys there. Cameron Payne stepping in for Chris Paul, holding the fort down. So, and good news, they're getting Dario Saric back. So another body in there that can help this team, that's for sure. Still no Jay Crowder. He's still out. Holding out, rather. So, hoping for a trade. So, we'll see there. So, that's your best teams. Your surprise teams. In the East, I'm going to go with the Indiana Pacers. The Indiana Pacers, right now, among the top 6 teams in the East. And it really starts and begins with Tyrese Haliburton. Tyrese Haliburton has played phenomenally well for the Pacers there. He's the head of the snake. He makes that offense go. So, and they're just a shade above 500, but they're playing good given the circumstances. So, a lot of us thought they was going to be one of those lottery teams yet again. So far, not the case. So, but there's still a lot of basketball to be played, guys. So, and then in the West, if you caught me about a week or so ago, I would have said Utah Jazz. But as fortunes would have it, the Utah Jazz, not that team right now. It would be the New Orleans Pelicans. The New Orleans Pelicans are the team to. They're actually right now in second place in the West. Willie Green, I like what I saw from him last year. That bubble team, not bubble team, but the play-in team that really overachieved, to be honest, and made it to that 8th seed to face the Phoenix Suns. And, they gave him a bit of a scare there. A bit of one. But Willie Green, man, he has them playing well. And your key factor is Zion Williamson. Zion Williamson, for the most part, has been healthy. So, the times he's been healthy, the team has taken off. So, right now, they're without C.J. McCollum. He was in health and safety protocols. I believe he still is. So they're having to kind of keep this thing together with some tape, a bit of tape, or some ball of string to keep this thing together. So, but right now, again, they're second in that Western Conference. Again, a lot can change, but right now I say they're the surprise team in the West. The disappointments, I think that's pretty obvious. As far as the East go, it has to be Brooklyn. The Brooklyn Nets, not where you think they would be right now. If playoffs finished today, they would be amongst the play-in teams. So, of course, a lot can change. They can climb up into the top 6 spot. Again, I'm not really convinced with that team. I get it. I understand. You got KD and Kyrie there. Ben Simmons with his injury history, that's going to be an issue. And I think they're just missing something. They're missing that oomph. They're missing that, again, that leader. There's no leader in that locker room right now. There isn't one. So for someone to tell me that, they're going all the way to the finals, maybe winning it all without leadership, I have a hard time swallowing that. I really do. So, and again, I'll say you can have all the talent in the world. It takes a bit more than that to get it done, especially when it comes to winning NBA championships. So, and then in the West, it has to be the Los Angeles Lakers. They're nowhere near where they should be. You had LeBron hurt for a good while. He's back. Anthony Davis, for the most part, has been healthy, but it's been the point guard play that's been killing them. It's been the guard play as a whole. Let me put it that way. So, Russell Westbrook, I give him all the credit in the world. He accepted the bench role, and he seems to be flourishing in that role. So, I give him a lot of credit, man. He could have pouted. He could have sulked. He could have said, you know what, send me home, trade me out. But the man did what was asked of him, and he's excelling in that. I give him credit. But they need more guard help. So, right now, if things were finished today, they will be on the outside looking in as far as even a play-in. So, can they turn things around? I've seen stranger things happen. There's still 3/4 of the season left, so I don't rule them out just yet, but it don't look good early, so we'll see. In terms of the best players, it's pretty much the players of the month for the month of November. Jason Tatum and Devin Booker. I've recited their numbers to you and so forth. These are the number one guys on the number one teams in their respective conferences, and that's just how it is. So, kudos to them. My surprise players in the East, I already spoke of this kid, Tyrese Halliburton, and what he's doing, man. He's putting up all-star caliber type numbers. And he is just balling right now. 19 points per game, nearly 11 assists per game as well, almost 2 steals. I mean, the kid is getting it done, man. The kid is getting it done. But in that, as far as All-Star go, it's always tough, especially in that conference, for guards to get in. But so far he looks good. And then in the West, I know everybody would say Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, but again, he's a guy who would have done that regardless. It's just availability for him. But I'm going to say Lauri Markkanen for the Utah Jazz. Here's another guy who's injury plagued, but he's been healthy all season long. But you didn't know he can do this. You knew what he can do, but you didn't know he can do this. He can be the kind of the leader of that Utah Jazz team a bit. So, Lauri Markkanen, I mean, the team is kind of coming back down to earth. Yes, they're doing that. I mean, they are in that tough Western division. So, Western Conference. But he's scoring 22 points per game, 8.5 rebounds. it, and the kid he's balling right now. So, will he get All-Star consideration? Maybe, but he's playing well, and this is for a team that everybody and their mother thought would be tanking right now, but they're a couple of games over 500, so tanking not so much. So, but again, still a lot of season to go. Disappointments, I had to kind of search and figure out, but I didn't want to penalize guys who are actually hurt, because injury shouldn't be the case in the fact that you are a disappointment. But I'll give you two. John Collins, prior to his injury, which just happened, pretty much now a fourth option in that offense for the Atlanta Hawks, right behind Trae Young, DeJounte Murray, and then even DeAndre Hunter. So this is a guy you're giving $25 million a year, and he's your fourth option now. Not good, which is why you always hear the trade rumor talks concerning him. So it's so bad that even your Julius Randle hating Knicks fans don't even want him in exchange for Randle. So he's persona non grata right now. So John Collins in the East. In the West, had to kind of dig for this too, but has to be Patrick Beverley. I mean, for the Lakers to start this guy over Russell Westbrook is insane to me. But he has his lowest career numbers across the board. It's just unthinkable, the fact that they have to play this guy. But he's giving you barely 4 points a game, nearly 4 rebounds, 2.5 assists. Even steals, he's down there. He usually gives you at least one a game. So, so it makes absolutely no sense to me, the fact that he started all these games, and yet the record is what it is. So, so that's my disappointment as far as that goes. So, all right, guys. So that is my assessment of the first quarter of the season. Now let us look at the schedule ahead. On tonight, you had the Suns going to the Mavericks in a game televised on NBA TV. Anything else of interest as far as the schedule? The Heat playing the Grizzlies tonight. That should be a good one. Pacers and Warriors. That could be an interesting game. Pacers going out to California to face the Warriors. And Tuesday's action. Lakers going to the Cavaliers. LeBron going back to Cleveland. I guess that holds some interest. And then you got the Mavericks facing the Nuggets. So Mavericks on a back-to-back, it looks like. Yeah, so Mavericks on a back-to-back going to Denver. That's not an easy deal. So you got that there. Wednesday, the Knicks face their arch nemesis, the Atlanta Hawks, in Madison Square Garden. So this will be Trae Young's first visit to the Garden. So, of course, the Garden will be electric in that regard. What else we have that's appealing? Sacramento Kings going to the Milwaukee Bucks. If you check with me before the season began, I'd be like, this is a nothing game, but the Kings are playing well right now. Bucks are the Bucks, so this could be a pretty interesting game. Apart from that, and then you got the late game on ESPN, the Boston Celtics facing the Phoenix Suns. The top two teams in both divisions playing on Wednesday, December 7th. That should be good. Thursday, got the Nuggets facing the Trailblazers on NBA TV. So Dame should be back for that game, going up against the Joker and his squad. So that should be good. Clippers and Heat, that could be interesting. Heat's right now. You could have named them a disappointing team as well, but Brooklyn's more of a disappointment, I think. So, but Heat need to kind of pull it together. So, and then you got Friday's slate of games. Friday, what's of interest here? The Hawks and Nets should be an interesting one. The Hawks going to Barclay, where Trey won't get the same kind of treatment he got at the Garden, but unless some Knicks fans kind of sneak into the building there. So, and then you got the Kings at the Cavaliers, where again, for the season start, that's a pretty much nothing game, but with both teams playing well right now, that could be a game of interest. Lakers facing the Sixers. That should be a good one, especially with the way Anthony Davis is playing versus Joel Embiid. That'll be a pretty good matchup to see, that's for sure. Phoenix going to the Pelicans. I was just talking about the Pelicans. So you have the top two teams in the West doing battle on Friday, December 9th. And then in the late window, you have Milwaukee Bucks going to the Dallas Mavericks. That could be a nice one there. Saturday schedule. What do you have? The Nets facing the Pacers. Pacers been playing the Nets tough this season so far, so that could be of interest there. The first ABC game, Boston facing going to Golden State, so that should be a nice one there. It's a primetime game as well on ABC, so all eyes will be there, that's for sure. The Jazz facing the Nuggets, two division rivals going at it there. That should be a good one too. And then Sunday, Sacramento comes to the Knicks. We'll see how these Knicks are playing come that point. So, also, and you got the Suns and Pelicans on a back, coming back to play each other again after they play each other on Friday. They come back a Sunday at the same place playing. Interesting. So you have that. What else is of interest? Not much else really. So, all right, guys. So that is your schedule in a nutshell. So a lot to look forward to for week 8. So, all right, guys. So I am done. That's it for me. Once again, I thank you for listening to the podcast, All Things Basketball with your boy GD. And as always, peace, and we'll talk soon. Take care. So, my peeps, if you like what you're listening to, you can go to my website, www.allthingsbasketballwithgd.com. You can also email me at thatsportsdudegd@gmail.com. To support this podcast, you can go to my PayPal, and that email is thatsportsdudegd@gmail.com. Also on my Anchor page, I have a support button there that you can also use to help the podcast. I'm on all the major platforms like Anchor, Spreaker, Google Podcasts, Amazon, SoundCloud, YouTube, Castbox, Radio Public, Podchaser, just to name a few. And also you can find me on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, Clubhouse, and Fanbase. So once again, I thank you for listening and supporting this podcast, and take care and be safe.